Hello, it's Lynn Watts here from Wyatt the Wonder Dog, and today I want to talk about cooperation. I think this is certainly a skill that, as counselors, parents, educators, we come face to face with all the time in terms of helping children learn to get better at getting along and using the social skill of cooperation. In fact, I think it's such an important skill. I wrote a book about it. So, in the story, Wyatt the Wonder Dog learns about cooperation. I used a very common problem, which is having a whole group of children together and everybody wants to do something different. And how do you solve the problem of one person wanting to play one thing and one or two others wanting to do something else? How do you manage that kind of situation without somebody being left out, somebody getting angry? How do you work together? And so, in the story, of course, Wyatt the Wonder Dog learns that he has a super power, which is that of cooperation and how to use that. So, I think that in order to teach kids this skill, we need to give them practical situations where they can practice cooperating when the stakes are not so high. In other words, when they are not so committed to what they want to do, but rather they've been assigned a task and they can practice using those kind of skills to get along and to determine who does what in a particular situation. So, along those lines, there is an activity in the back of that book, but there's also several activities in the back of this book, Stories to Learn By, which has a whole section on cooperation. And one of the things that I used to do in the classroom, in particular, I did this with young students, say around first, second grade, and I would have a break everybody up into a partner, and then I would have a coloring sheet. I used a picture of Wyatt the Wonder Dog's bandana because it's kind of a key thing in the story. But I would, as partners, I would have the two students decide how they wanted to design and color that particular bandana. How are they going to do that? And you do more than just hand out a sheet of paper and say, get busy coloring, but rather take them through the process of talking about it, who does what colors should we use, what should we draw, what do you think is a good idea? Are we both going to draw over the picture? Are we going to, divide it up in some way? Just helping kids to determine those kind of solving skills that are so important. If you think that, well, that's great, coloring like that is great for younger students, but older kids, let's say third, fourth grade, they're probably not going to want to do a coloring sheet. What if instead you got a large piece of butcher block paper and again had students design a poster for cooperation? So again, breaking them up into groups, perhaps assigning certain parts of the butcher block paper to butcher paper, not butcher block, but butcher paper to help them determine and create scenes that demonstrate cooperation. So in this case, maybe they have to come up with a situation where kids need to cooperate, then figure out how to draw that. How are you going to illustrate that? Could you use some words perhaps to describe some of it, and then maybe some ideas for problem solving, and design an entire poster. And then, of course, you can put that poster up in the classroom as a reminder of how important cooperation is. So I think using a book about cooperation could get kids thinking about the problem of cooperation, how to do that. And then in the additional book, Stories to Learn By, there are more exercises on cooperation in terms of working together as a team, as a whole classroom, and some games that you could play as well. So those are some ideas for helping kids learn that very important skill of cooperation. Hope that helps as you work in designing some lessons to change kids' lives. Thanks so much for listening.